Thank you, Boni, and thank you very much for inviting ETNO to give our views on IGF here in this meeting. Actually, we as ETNO look at a world that's becoming much more digitized, and it's becoming much more complex at the same time. And I believe that when you have discussions and we have complex matters that concerns us all, we actually need broad discussions in order to look at these and involve people in how the world is evolving. And at IGF, well, we actually meet a lot of different stakeholders. And we meet more than the usual suspects there, because when I look at Brussels, we all call it the Brussels bubble, but at IGF you meet a variety of people, and you meet young people, you meet people who are there in their own personal capacity, and I think it's a very important way of exchanging views and positions of different matters. And well, that's why the ETNO is supporting IGF, and we're trying to be an active partner not only at the international IGF, but also at the local IGFs like EuroDIG or CDIG, where I believe that many very important discussions are being brought up. The Commission talked about fake news, cybersecurity. You have a lot of important things that are being discussed. ETNO did speak at IGF on 2 sessions. One is Data's New Oil, and the other one was Gender Inclusion in the Future of the Internet. And these 2 topics shows the wide or broad scope of IGF, and I think this is the strength of IGF. You do discuss different issues with the different stakeholders. And if I am to take Data as the New Oil, that was a session with North America, North Africa and the Middle East, and they're at a totally different level than Europe. And here, it's really interesting to exchange how things are working in the different places. It's not that they're at a lower level, they just have a different angle to data and data economy, and they're actually growing at a pace that we have not seen in Europe for a long time. So here, it's important to share our experience on the GDPR, on e-privacy, on regulation, but also on how we as an industry see the technology evolving. On the gender issues, that was a huge session from all over the world. And here again, I find that it's important to discuss gender and IT, because as this session actually came out with, was that IT is not gender neutral. And a lot of issues on AI and things like this is trying to avoid bias, but if you have a bias incorporated in the technology itself, how do we avoid it? So I think having these discussions will bring us forward, and bring us forward in a way that might not seem very efficient, because that's also a matter
to have these discussions. Well, I think it's actually up to us as participants to make this efficient. And I think the joint statement that was coming out, or the joint declaration from Commissioner Gabriel and members of the Parliament, is a way of keeping these discussions alive after IGF. So we have these discussions, we bring our takeaways out to the broader communities in Europe or the rest of the world. That being said, we actually had some of our members there. We had Deutsche Telekom, Telefonica, British Telecom, Orange. But we still see that industry is not well represented there. Not that they're not there necessarily, but many of the sessions were actually lacking involvement from some of the industry players. And I think this is a thing that's crucial if we want to bring these discussions ahead, that we involve all the stakeholders. And I would not see an old industry session nor an old civil society discussion. I think it's important that we have that diversity in the panels, not only on women and men, but on industry, on countries. I think diversity in general is important here. So it was great to see both the commissioner being there, and it was also great to see so many from the parliament being there, because another thing that's been criticized for IGF is the lack of governments and those who are working with regulation. So I think Europe is very well represented, and I'm very proud that we have that many stakeholders from that part too. How do we bring this forward? I think the chairman's report from IGF is a way to do it. I know that this is also a thing we do with Eurodig, and I find that if you have a tangible outcome by a report, it can be a way of bringing it forward. Of course, that's not enough, but having this discussion as we have today is also another way of bringing things alive of IGF. Well, and if I look at the relevance of IGF, I actually think this is extremely important for all of the world and of Europe. I think this is a great opportunity to share European values on human rights, on knowledge and best practices, freedom of speech, and also what we talk a lot about these days on data protection. So while we work in different ways in different parts of the world, I think this sharing of knowledge and best practice will bring us more together than apart. My last thing is we're a bit concerned about the lack of venue for 18, and I hear Hong Kong being mentioned. That being said, I think we could look into, and we would support that we would move from a yearly event to a bi-yearly, because I think a lot of the things that we're trying to accomplish between the meetings are getting stuck because we have too little time to actually move ahead on some of the issues. So it could be an idea to move from a yearly to a bi-yearly. But my last sentence will be, well, ETNO and its members are a strong supporter of IGF and also of the regional initiatives, because we think this multi-stakeholder approach is extremely important, not only for us as an industry, but for Europe as a society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and now I want to give the floor to